Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, coming to you from SuiteRecording in beautiful Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And I'm here with my producer, Joe Gangiemi. And Joe, it's funny, when I was preparing for the show yesterday, I put some of the band Poison on because I'm a sucker for 80s hair metal. And it gets me in a good mood. Is there any band that just gets you in the mood when you come into the studio and you want to start producing? Is there a go-to band for you?
You know, Coop, I really love to listen to like a band called Tool because they're super like industrial, right? And it's just like it's very sort of fast paced, and it just like it really gets me going and just ready to just jump all over, recording whatever podcast it may be that day.
So now you did a podcast here. Tell the listeners more and the viewers more about what SuiteRecording is.
Yeah, absolutely. So SuiteRecording is a podcast and content studio here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And we help brands and businesses to leverage the power of podcasting and YouTube to generate quality content and to amplify their message and to reach their audience in a fun and unique way. So we can help you with everything from planning all the way through to production. So if you're interested in learning more, you can contact us anytime at hello@suiterecording.com or visit us on the web at suiterecording.com. That's SUITE. Thanks, Coop. Take it away.
All right, we have a great panel. We always have a great panel, and I run into these people. I always run into them. I run into people at events. Like my first guest from CLM Advisors, I ran into her at an event last night. It's Ashleigh Wilson. How you doing, Ashleigh?
Hi there. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And then my next guest, I didn't see her forever, and then we were at an event at PJ Wheelahands, and I said, you got to come on the show, and it's from ARS Truck and Fleet Services. It's Christine Collins Blithe. How you doing, Christine?
Hi, Steve. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And finally, my buddy I've run into all the time from the pandemic. We were always in networking from Positive Wiring. It's Matt McDevitt. How you doing, Matt?
Good, everybody. How are you?
Good,
Thanks for having me here, Steve.
So, Ashleigh, tell me a little more about the company you work for.
So CLM Advisors, we are a boutique financial firm. We're located actually in Gloucester County in southern New Jersey, and we work with small and medium-sized businesses and their business owners, helping them think with the end in mind. What does that mean, right? We're looking at where a business is financially today versus where it should be at the end goal. We're thinking with the end in mind and how to apply the financial planning and strategy in growing and scaling a business.
Okay. And now, Christine, tell us more about ARS.
ARS is the largest maintenance and collision fleet facility in the tri-state area. We have 15 mobile trucks that deliver quality, service, trust, and convenience to your doorstep. We service light and heavy vehicles and all types of equipment.
And Matt, tell us about Positive Wiring.
So Positive Wiring is a commercial wiring business that works only in buildings for commercial complexes. We install wiring for telecommunications, voice, data, and fiber optic cabling. We also install wiring for access control and security. That's like cameras and door access and all that burglar. And we also do commercial electrical wiring. So generators, panels, lights, everything a business needs to run, we kind of install.
Okay. Now, as I said, I run into you all from networking. And everyone has a story, and everyone has how they got to where they are. I have a very long story. I'm not going to go into. But for you, Christine, how did you end up at ARS? And I know you're in business dev and sales. What was your path? Because, it's just you don't hear a lot about fleet services. It's not something that I go. But tell me how you ended up where you are.
It's extremely unique, Steve. You don't really hear about it too often. And the owner of ARS has done such an incredible job with his company, but I started in diesel fuel sales, actually. So I sold fuel for 11 years and I knew the owner of ARS, so it was just a really smooth transition. So I've been in fleet for 20 years.
What made you decide to sell diesel? Once again, that's something I don't hear a lot. Like, I'm a diesel seller. You don't go to networking. So, I sell diesel. What made you decide to get in diesel?
A headhunter.
That's it.
It was yep. The job became available, and I interviewed for it, and it seemed like a really good fit. It was a market that I was excited to be in. I had come from IT and telecom.
Okay. How about you, Ashleigh? Tell me how you ended up where you are.
Well, it wasn't a straight line for sure. So I actually had gotten out of school and was studying to be a police officer. Now, anybody that knows my personality is like, oh, that makes sense now. But I was going to school to be a police officer, and I was working at a law office, and it was something that I wanted to get my experience in. And I, like Christine, somebody kind of sought me out after working there for about 1.5 years at the law office and said, hey, I think you could sell for me. And I worked my way through corporate America after that. Previously, I had been more in franchisee management and small business. And that is when I entered the corporate world. And I ended up doing the corporate ladder climb for sure for some years. Made my way from sales and marketing over to the operational and the admin side, got to run these businesses for a little bit and get to experience what that's like to be essentially a miniature CEO. However, I was a single mom at the time, and I was taking 1 a.m. calls for problems, and it's a lot. As any business owner or someone who's in operations or on an executive team for a business knows it can be a 24-hour job.
Sure.
And for a little while, I was able to do that. But then I really decided I needed some more time with my daughter at the time with everything that we were going through. And I had taken an industry change, and I'm in finance now.
Wow, I never knew you wanted to be a cop. That's so cool. That's just cool. Matt, now how about you? I know you come from a long, I believe, a long family of wiring.
Yep. But to be honest with you, I got interested in electricity in kindergarten. There was a kid on my bus that had a big speaker magnet, and he was like a teenager, and he gave it to me. And he was like, seemed giant to me. And I had this magnet, it was bigger than my hand, and everything would stick to it. And I learned all about it, and I got interested pretty much because of that. And then my dad was like, hey, I'm an electrician, you know? So in high school, I'd wire all my friends' cars with like big speakers. Remember in the 90s, everyone had big speakers. So it just seemed like, for me, it just made sense. I loved it. It made sense to me, and I never looked back.
Okay. Now, I know all of you, because since the pandemic, there's a lot more networking, whether it's online, in person, stuff like that. And I know all of you have families. So how do you, and we'll start with you, Matt, how do you handle the work-life balance? Because I've never had kids, so it's easy for me. I could just go out. I talk to friends. I'm like, you want to meet for a drink? Oh, I got to get a babysitter. For me, I was like, oh, I'll just walk down the street to a bar. But how do you handle that aspect of your life, Matt?
Well, we all have 24 hours a day, and you have to prioritize what's most important to you. Years ago, when I started this business, I had a hard time with that, to be honest with you. And I started to work just with the schedule. I'd schedule myself time, at 4:30 every day. I walk away from my computer. I'm a single dad. I have 4 kids. I start cooking dinner. We sit down every night. We have dinner together. I do things like that. You just need to take breaks sometimes. It's so important. We forget why we're doing this. We're doing this for our children. We're doing it for our families. We're not really doing it for ourselves at some point. And we forget sometimes to make time for those people. They're the reason we're doing it. And quite frankly, like as we get older, no one's going to remember how hard you work but your kids. So they're number one in my life.
Okay. How about you, Christine? I know you have kids. How do you handle, and you're out networking a lot, how do you handle the balance? Because it must be tough.
It's funny that you asked that. And Matt, I completely agree with you. It definitely is a balance. And there's definitely been plenty of times where I have that mom guilt because I love networking. I love to get out there, but I feel like I should be home with the kids. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Alexis Allegretto. I don't know if anyone knows her, but she was with me when we saw each other at March Madness. But she had said, it's good for them to see you go to work. And it is like, this is, you have to work to get what you want in life. So when the kids see dad and mom go to work, I think that kind of instills those values in them. So it really, you need to be at the sports games, you need to spend time with them, especially on the weekends. But, my husband and I have a good balance, so we make it work.
And Ashleigh, I want to ask you, because I know you just said like the other day you had like an 8 a.m. till 9:30 at night day. How do you do it? And you said your child's going on 26, even though they're 13. How do you handle life balance?
I think I'm still asking myself that question sometimes, right? The harder weeks, I think everyone knows that's a parent, the harder weeks like this week, when you're getting home at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, 9 p.m. on Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Thursday, and you have those weeks that are kind of just stacked and you have to power through. It's always a little bit of the mom guilt that Christine brought up, right? You're always asking, oh, I really didn't see her all that much this week. Should I, be home more? What am I doing? And there are definitely weeks where I am rushing home to get to her because she's the thing that I want to get home to. And sometimes we just have to power through. But yeah, I'm at the fortunate stage where she's a tween teen going on, adult female in her head, and she doesn't need mom. And God, and eye rolls. It's a fun time, let me tell you.
Okay. So, we're all aspect of social media and stuff like that. Everyone always says how great they are. And it's obvious. Everyone's always as my mom would say, tooting their own horn. What is an obstacle that you have overcome in your professional life that's something that you have overcome that you never thought you could, and it's made you better at work? Because we all have obstacles and people don't want to admit it. And I always think that if you sit there and if you ask someone for help, they'll give it to you. They want to hear that. But Matt, what's an obstacle that you've overcome in your professional life that makes you proud?
Well, I don't know if it makes me proud or not, but I think something I've had to overcome as a business owner is asking people for help. I'm like a self-sufficient person. I don't ask anyone to do anything for me. And in business, sometimes you get in positions where you don't know the right answer, or you need more work and you got to call people. You have to be able to humble yourself and ask people for help. You'd be surprised how many people out there are willing to help you if you'll humble yourself and ask for it. So for me personally, even in the last 2 years, that's something I've had to learn about myself, to humble myself and ask people for help. And people have helped me with my business. It's been fantastic. But I think sometimes putting your ego aside, and doing what is right, I think that's been a challenge for most men.
Okay. How about you, Ashleigh? What's an obstacle that you've overcome that it makes you pretty happy or pretty proud?
So I was in corporate America when COVID hit, unfortunately, and we were in a position where I think a lot of industries kind of switched. Their normal day-to-day went out the window, and we were doing and going through and experiencing things that not only were hard, so to speak, it was stuff that we never imagined we would have to go through and or do and complete, right? So all of us kind of banding together and forging a different relationship and a different staff, connection that we had at the time, and being in operations, it was hard. It was hard to balance that care and fear that everyone had in their mind of, how do I get up and go to work? How do I provide and be safe for my family? How do we get through this? No one knew what was going on. The world was flipped on its belly. So being able to kind of navigate through that and coming out on the other side saying, hey, we really made it through and we did a really good job. That's definitely something that I hold on to and hold close for sure.
Okay. How about you, Christine?
I'm someone who moves very quickly, and I tend to react very quickly to things. Like if there's somebody presents me with something that I disagree with, in the past, I would snap back and text or whatever. And now I've finally gotten to a place that's just much more peaceful, where I'll stop, do the 5-second breath and say, wait, let me just digest this. Let me just stop and wait before I email back, text back, call, and, get upset. So I think really just finding the present moment, and peace in that, and really trying to think about someone else's perspective, not just my own.
Okay. So I was having coffee with someone the other day, and we were talking about some project I'm going to work on. And they said, one characteristic of mine that I never really thought about. So they said, you have credibility. They said, people know you're not full of shit. And
Right.
and that's a characteristic that makes me happy. And I didn't really think about it. What's a characteristic? We'll start with you, Ashleigh. What's a characteristic about you that makes you happy that you have it? And people have told you this, and you may have not known it or known it. But what's one characteristic, or maybe two, that you sit there and you go, okay, this is pretty cool. People look at me this way. Give me one or two.
I think anybody that knows me personally knows that I'm extremely headstrong, sometimes to my own demise, right, where we can't get out of our own way. But I have that quality in me of the go-getter, and I want to complete something, sometimes so much that I just want to take on more than I should be taking on at the time. I would like to be able to say one day I'll be a recovering perfectionist, but I'm not quite there yet. So as of right now, it's the headstrong. I love it. It definitely has some of its downfalls that I need to work on, kind of like how Christine's working on herself as far as responding. But that's a good quality, I believe, that I have, that a lot of people have recognized in me.
Good. My wife's very headstrong, and I don't like it. It's because she's always right. It always happens. Christine, what's a characteristic that you're happy you have?
Hands down is my ability to connect others. I love introducing people. I love identifying people that have synergy and things like that. I love being an ambassador for Jersey Man, for example, and bringing somebody into a room that's never sold before and doesn't know anybody, because I was there 20 years ago, and it's very overwhelming to walk into a networking event where you don't know anyone or you're trying to meet people. So I really my goal is to make that easier for others. So I would say my ability to connect others is something I'm very proud of.
Okay, how about you, Matt? What's a characteristic, besides being such a charming and funny man?
I was gonna say pretty much what Christine said. I think my best quality is being outgoing. I love people. I love to connect with them. I like to help them. And in every situation that I get involved in, I try to make sure that everyone around me is happy with that situation. So I think just loving people, I think that's probably my greatest strength.
Okay. So we're all good people. We're all doing well. Do you ever sit there and self-doubt yourself or go through imposter syndrome? I think we all done it. Do you ever have those moments of not being sure, like sitting there going, man, am I good at my job or do I suck? I used to do that when I did comedy. That's why I didn't go on stage for a while. I would go, all this shit sucks. And then I got on stage and it worked, but I went through that, and I still go through that self-doubt. Like, it's just a bit funny. Do you ever go through that? And if you don't, that's fine, but I think most people do. I mean, do you ever get in your own head? And if you do, how do you overcome it? Like, Christine, do you ever go through any self-doubt or imposter syndrome? And when you do, how do you snap out of it? Because it can be, like you said, someone walking into a room where you don't know anybody. Same as that, it can be very, very overwhelming and taxing on your mental health. Do you ever go through that? And if you do, how do you get out of it? Christine.
Am I going?
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, I think if anyone says they don't have that voice in their head, I just don't believe that. I think everyone has that at some point, whether it's daily, weekly, whatever. And I would have to say my faith, really just kind of praying my way out of it, asking God for any kind of spiritual influence and things like that. I really just try to assess, my blessings and enter into a state of gratitude.
Okay. How about you, Ashleigh? Do you ever get in that kind of area, and how do you get out of it?
Sure, I think everybody does. Much like Christine said, anybody that says that they don't doubt themselves in a down moment isn't telling the truth there. I'm sure we all have those weak moments, but I really, truly try and pull myself out by wondering, not necessarily sitting in the dumps of how I'm not doing well or what I could be doing better, but I'm really kind of putting goals on what to do to get better. I'm very goal oriented. Oftentimes, if I have a goal that's a long-winded goal, I kind of break it down into smaller in order to kind of gauge where I am through my goals. So being very goal-oriented, I am a critical thinker, and I'm always a critical thinker at like 2 in the morning, when you're supposed to be sleeping. That's my critical thinking time. So at 2 in the morning, I'm typically laying in bed and going, all right, well, what am I going to do different? Okay, I had to call these people. I have to get back to these people. So I'm always kind of plotting in my head, like my next thing to do.
Okay. How about you, Matt? And that's funny. I do the same thing. If I think of something funny, I'll put it on my phone, and if I might have a very bright phone, and if I happen to wake up my wife at like 3 in the morning, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I had an idea. Is this funny?" She's like, "Go back to sleep." Matt, what do you do when you get in that headspace of imposter syndrome? Like, am I good enough? You're good at wiring. You've been doing it for a long time. We know that. People recommend you. It's not like you suck. People wouldn't recommend you if you did, but we still go through that. What do you do when you get in that space?
Like in business, when I hear that voice of self-doubt, I reach out to like advisors I work with, like Michael Berman. He helps me with the financial things, and look at the business and say, we're doing okay, right? Everything's okay. It makes you feel better about it. Personally, in my life, there are men in my life who I consider them my elders, and I reach out to them and they give me mentorship. And when that doesn't work for me, like Christine said, I reach out to God. I ask God for help. I ask him every day. And that's kind of what I do. And I think it helps to have people you can reach out to, even if it's your faith. Just you have to go outside yourself.
Okay. Now, you mentioned elders in your life and people reaching out to people. And give me one person, and it can be 2 if you need to. That's fine. You can elaborate. But who is a person that's been very important in your life? Like, I look at, I've had different points in my life. My mom was very important to me. My dad was, we have certain people that make a difference. But who's someone that you look out, or 2 people that you sit there and go, man, this person really made a difference on who I am now and the person I become? Matt, we'll start with you. Who is someone, because you said elders, that may not be, one of the elders may not be it, but who is someone that you sit there and go, man, I'm so glad that this person is in my life?
Well, during the pandemic, I met John White, and I even went to Florida and spent a week with him. And John has advised me on my business, on my personal life. He's been a really good friend to me. He's about 15 years older than I am, so he's that much ahead in life. I look at it like I have a 45-inch window. Everybody older than me have a bigger window to see the world in. So I reach out to them and say, hey, what do you see? You know, help me with this. And I think the second person, like I stated before, is Michael Berman. He's been such an asset to my business and to me as a friend as well. So that relationship to me is priceless. So
We have a bigger window as we get older, but the shade keeps going lower because it's almost
Sure.
over. So that's what happens. You know, how about you, Christine? Who's some people that have been very important to shaping you of who you are?
You know, of course, I'm going to say my mother, because that's number one, and she's been absolutely amazing my entire life. The second person is the owner of ARS, Patrick Connell. He's just been such an incredible support and source of, you know, knowledge. I've learned so much from him, and he's given me such an incredible opportunity over these 8 years. I also want to give a shout out to a coach of mine, Devin Denofa. I don't know if everyone knows Devin, but he has the Harvest, and I'm sure everyone sees him on LinkedIn and things like that. What he is doing is absolutely phenomenal. He brings in speakers. He just really looks to elevate people. And I have so much respect for that. He isn't afraid to be vocal about his faith online. And he just, everything he touches, it makes people better. Like he's self-mastery. He's always teaching people how to better themselves. I have so much respect for any coaches, you know, people that are in that coaching space, really trying to help others, because we all need a boost in life.
Devin's been on the show, and I told Devin at an event, I can see Devin in like 10 years running a ministry. I just can. I see that because you said he's very faith-oriented, he's into helping, and I can just see like putting on the PTL and seeing Devin going, you know, live from Marlton, it's the Devin Denova Hour. I just said
He's gone global. No question.
It's crazy.
No question.
How about you, Ashleigh? Some people that are important to you in developing who you are.
Well, I think the person who gave me my purpose is that, you know, headstrong daughter that I've got, who's walking in my, you know, shadow there as being headstrong and being, you know, somebody who has shaped me as a person, and my personality is definitely her. Professionally, I would say that person that kind of plucked me and really put some fire underneath my career, that person who kind of saw me and said, hey, I believe that you could be a great asset to our team. She really, she kind of dismantled me brick by brick and then rebuilt me. It's funny, I was in my young 20s when she plucked me into a new company, and I went through those hard times of learning a new industry, a new company, and a new way with a new person who's kind of guiding me and shaping me at the time. And she really built me up and taught me so much of the professional world, not only in the sales and marketing, but just in the people to people aspect. She really was a big asset as far as who I am professionally today.
Okay, we're going to stay with you. We talk about where we are in life and stuff like that, and we all change over the years. At this point in your life, and I'm not saying 10 years ago, I'm not thinking 10 years before, Ashleigh, what is success to you? What, you know, some people, and still some people measure success by a car. I can give a shit about a car. When I worked for Coit, my car said Coit all over it. And people are like, you're riding a billboard. I said, yeah, but I'm riding a billboard. I don't pay for gas. I don't pay for a car. I don't pay for insurance. I don't pay for tolls. I'm fine with that. A car isn't success for me. Some people it is. And that's their choice. And I have no problem with that. Some people it's a big house. I'm fine in a condo. I mean, that's just the way it is. Ashleigh, what's success for you?
I think happiness and peace overall, right? At home, we kind of, all of us will probably carry a little bit of work home with us because we are such professional people who it's hard to disconnect sometimes from helping the people we're helping. We all have that common denominator of wanting to help, wanting to connect, wanting to be an asset and or a resource to people. And sometimes you have to kind of learn to disconnect and really focus in on home and the family and that unit there. And I think that being able to kind of have peace and just feel good day to day and not be so stressed and strained and working yourself ragged and, you know, being outside of the house and not seeing the people who mean the most to you. I think as long as there's peace and happiness and everyone's healthy, those people that mean a lot to you at home and everyone's healthy, that right there is what I'm asking for my life. Being able to provide for my family, being able to have everybody healthy and happy, including myself.
Okay, well, you say that. So what is happiness to you then? I mean, because success and happiness don't always run hand in hand. What is happiness to you?
I think it's really just a sense of security and a sense of comfort. in the sense of you are helping people, you are doing the right thing, right? Everyone wants to make sure that they're doing the right thing, or that they are helping people, or that they are succeeding in their goals, whether that's a goal for work and, making certain sales, or whether it's a goal at home and, I don't know, even sports, right? Some people have such sport-related goals and athletic-related goals that if you feel like you are progressing and you feel like the people around you and yourself are taken care of, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, that's happiness to me. That your core unit, when they're taken care of, they're secure, they're healthy, they're doing well, kind of everyone's progressing. I think that is happiness for me, because we're raising the next generation of good humans, right? So that is really the basis of everything in my household and unit.
Okay, Christine, I want to ask you answer that with success, and then after you get done talking about what success is, you hit up what happiness is.
So I got to reference my favorite football player, who's Tim Tebow, and I don't know if anyone got an opportunity to hear him speak in Conshohocken about 6 months ago, but he talks about success for significance, growing your business, excelling in your occupation, building a better future. That is traditionally success. But to me, success is when you're doing that for other people, to serve others, and whether that's, like Ashleigh said, your children, of course, number one, your family, your partner, your best friend, your extended family, and your work family, your networking friends, and really just trying to find ways that God is calling you to build others up. I think, some of the most successful people in the world are the people that help the most people, like doctors, teachers. I think teachers, by the way, are one of the most underpaid and undervalued positions, because they do so much and have such an impact. Coaches, people that really make a difference in other people's lives. And happiness to me is a moment by moment choice, is a choice to be grateful. And anytime that you are unhappy, I have developed the skill to focus on gratitude, and immediately it just changes your vibe. It lifts your energy. It just makes you become present and happy, because you're grateful for what we have, and we all have so much.
Okay, how about you, Matt? What's success to you? And then hit me up with what your happiness is.
Success to me is, I'm going to follow in the footsteps of Jeff Platt and John White, which is becoming a time millionaire. That means that you have enough money that you don't have to be concerned about the cost of things any longer. And you have your own time to do what you want with it. You don't have to work 1 million hours a week. You can give away your time and help people. You can help your employees, you can help your family, you can help your friends. You can make your own schedule. You're not under control basically any longer. You're not strapped down by money. You have your time to help people and do what you want. And I think that's what really life is about for me. And that's also happiness, is freedom in your life, right? Talk about being happy. You're happiest when you have freedom and you have the options to do what you want with your time. Most of us do not. So for me, if I made enough money and the company was doing well, that's happiness for me. That's success for me. They're almost the same thing. Time, years ago, I was injured for a while and I had a lot of time to think. And the most important two things to me at the time were seeing my loved ones and eating food. That's it. So, money's wonderful, but it does not make you happy, but it will buy you time. And with that time, you can find things that will bring you a lot of enjoyment, especially when you help other people.
All right, good. So we're talking about how everything's great. Life's all peachy keen. And that's good. It's positive. That's why I like the show. But let's go to the dark side for a second. What is something you don't like about your job? Like, we all can say, I love my job. I love my job. When I did comedy, I was on the road. I hated driving 300 miles to a gig. Once I was on stage, it was great. Then getting in your car, staying at a shitty hotel, then driving, wherever the next gig was. I hated that part of it. But being on stage made up for that. It was like, okay, this is what I love. Ashleigh, what is something you don't like about your job?
I don't think there's any one specific piece that I would say like I hate or dislike. What I will say, kind of following in some of your other shows, I am a watcher and a listener in your podcast. So I have thinking of some of the things that recently have been said and talked about with some of your guests. And one of the things that I think was talking about that I can weigh in on is the networking and being able to walk into a full room of people. I think Christine hit on this too. When you're new in that, when you're brand new, that's like a nerve-wracking piece. But even when you're not new, even when you've been at this 15 years, there's always going to be days where you're extra tired, or there's always going to be days where you're just like, oh my God, walking into a room of 100 people and trying to talk to so many people, it takes a lot of energy out of you. So there's always times where it's going to be a little bit harder for you and you're going to be tired and you're going to be drained and whatnot. But I think in those situations where what I try and do to kind of alleviate that is it might not be a night that I get to talk to half the room, but it might be a night that I really maximize on some of the partnerships and, the people who in the room that I do know and or that I have been able to be of a resource to and or vice versa, that I kind of build on that with them. Maybe I don't have the mental capacity to literally go collecting, cards that night, but I do have the mental capacity to sit there and provide value to somebody because I'm there. And realistically, that's what I want to do by, helping people with the common denominator in this conversation is helping people. So even if you can't help yourself, whether you're brand new and you're scared or whether it's just too much for you or you're tired, you can always kind of find something to make out of that.
It's crazy when you talk about not knowing when I started networking here 5 years ago. I've been out on the West Coast. And for me, I've gotten to the point where I built a big network, but I don't work the room anymore. Like I saw Christine, I was sitting at the corner of the bar and you walk by and I talk to you because I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do the bullshit FaceTime. The people I want to talk to, they will come to me. Like I ended up talking, I had a great conversation with you, Christine, because somehow that you were at the right time. It was that synergy. And then I said, oh, you got to come on the show. And that's my point with networking. We're going to get to networking in a little bit. But Christine, what is something you don't like about your job? Is it the gas fumes? No, I'm joking. What is something you don't like about your job?
Yes. So I think this could apply to probably most sales jobs. It's something that's extremely frustrating to me is when I know that I can help someone, but I can't get in front of them. They won't give me an opportunity to speak to them, to meet them. I call, I email, I try to, LinkedIn, and you try to get, for a fact that you can save that person time, money, X, Y, Z, right? But they won't give you the opportunity to show them what you can deliver. And like Matt said, ARS is amazing at providing people time. Essentially you want to be a provider of a time machine is like what I've heard, and giving people time. So due to the fact that we service vehicles and equipment on site, the time that saves on an annual basis is pretty significant. So when somebody has 400 vehicles and I can't get in front of them, that's really hard for me because I know how much I could save, help, etc.
How about you, Matt?
Well, I hate when money gets in the way of a project. Like, I wish I could work for every customer that's out there. Everyone that calls me, I want to do the job for them because I just love doing this. It's the only thing I've ever done. I really enjoy it. Whether it's running the wires, whether it's sitting in the office being the job or talking to the client on the phone, anything about my business, I just really enjoy doing it. And sometimes when people, they because of cost, they elect to go with someone else or they don't want to do the job or whatever. It's always frustrating for me because I just wish I could do it for free because I just like doing it, and I just hate when money gets in the way.
Now, we've all sat here and we've talked about building relationships. And I think that's what business is all about now. I think there's been a big shift in networking. I think people don't cold call anymore. It's all about building relationships. So if you're going to sit there and if you're going to build a relationship with someone and you're going to refer someone, okay, what is a characteristic or a trait they have to have that you sit, because we've all done it where you recommend someone and then the person never gets back and your friend goes, oh, what happened? I thought they were going to call me. And you're like, oh, I don't know. And then you sit there and you call them and then they're like, oh, I got busy. It's like, yeah, but I put my name on the line. I said, hey, work with Matt, work with Christine, work with Ashleigh. They're good people. They'll take care of you. So, and because I do that, because I trust all of you, because I know you're all straight shooters. And that's one thing I think is important. If someone's a straight shooter. I can tell people who are full of shit right off the bat. It's my whole life. Whenever there's been like a scandal on TV, I'll say to someone, oh, that person's BSing. Oh, no. I'm like, you watch. 6 months later, such and such made this whole story up. So what is a characteristic that someone needs to have that you will put trust in and recommend them, because at the bottom of the line is they don't remember the person you refer to doesn't remember the person that didn't show up. They remember you.
Well, I'll label that as reliability, and I'll use that as my characteristic. I think we all kind of know, and we're a bit seasoned in, for the people who we want to refer or do business with, we want to like them and trust them, right? That's the main two that you have, but you also want them to be reliable. You don't want to hand something off and or offer, a referral or a lead to somebody that somebody has a need with, and they drop that ball because they don't end up connecting with them, or they don't end up getting back to them. So them being reliable on top of being able to trust and like them is certainly important.
How about you, Christine? What is someone, because I know you refer a lot of people, and what is an important characteristic for you?
I'm going to agree with what Ashleigh said. I mean, the reliability, somebody you can count on, is absolutely number one, and that is something that you can kind of determine by how quickly they respond to you. And also the go-givers, people that look to help others and aren't just concerned with what can you do for me, but what can I turn around and do for you, for them, whatever. So it's really, like you said, and Steve, that's a talent that you have, being able to identify that. But I feel like I have some of that too. Like I know from our relationship how you treat others, treat your customers, conduct others. So if I don't know you super well, I'm probably not going to refer you to a customer of mine.
Okay.
I may connect you to somebody, but as far as like referring, that you are putting your name on the line there. So it's something you really need to know the person.
How about you, Matt?
I mean, they're totally right. It's all along the same thing: being trustworthy, being conscientious of the client, and personality too. It's much easier to introduce someone who's a nice person, who's happy, has a little energy, that's excited about what they're doing, than it is to send someone down the line who just, they're not really that excited about it. It's just another sale to them. So I think it's a mixture of things, but I think personality, being accountable, answering the customer quickly, all those things are so important, because like they said, it's your name attached to it. You want to make sure that that person makes you look the way that you want the client to see you as well.
Okay. So we're talking about networking. We'll stay on networking. Networking fascinates me. It does. It's such an art form, but it's also, people don't believe this. I'm actually an introvert. Okay. I'm an introvert. I don't need to, I'll sit by myself. I pick and choose. I think that comes from when I did comedy, people, you go to a party, they go, oh, you're a comedian, tell a joke. I'm like, no, no. Are you going to pay me? Like, I don't care about you. But then if I'll go to a party, I'm not like, hey, look at me. But I'll sit, and when I meet someone, I can talk to them for hours because I'm fascinated by people. And that's what fascinates me about networking. The stories and the people we meet, and the stuff you find out about people that you never know. Like, I was talking to a guy at that event we were at, Christine, and it turns out he was a morning host for the show, AM show in Atlantic City, radio show, that I'm friends with his co-host. I never knew that. I was like, oh my God, you were Scott Freeman's partner. So when it comes to networking, what is it you just really love about networking? And then follow it up with a weird ass story that happened to you at networking that you were just like, because we all have like weird network stories, like horror stories. But Christine, what do you love about networking? And you're going to say, well, the go-givers, but what do you personally love about networking? Because you have to love it to do it. I mean, if you hate it, you're not going to go.
Steve, like you, I genuinely love people. I love learning about people. I love hearing their stories and, what they do. One of my favorite things about sales is walking into a new company that I am not familiar with and learning how they do things. I mean, some of the stuff that's out there, you wouldn't even believe, people selling this one little screw that's like essential for this huge garage door, like, right, and stuff like that. So it really is fascinating to me to learn about what people do. But more than that, I love the energy in a room. People that tend to go to networking events are typically people that are high energy, social, excited about life. So for me, I really just enjoy being around those types of people. And horror stories, there have been a few people over the years where they're just extremely pushy, and I don't think that they might be rookies, they might not know, But like you said, it's about relationships, and it's about learning and growing, and eventually finding if your business fits or not. But beyond that, it's really about people and learning about each other.
It's funny. I don't think the pushiness is rookie. I think pushiness is just inherent. I think people just have that in them, and I think they use it.
Both.
I think it also comes from an insecurity because they feel like they have to do something and they don't get it. And that might be part rookie, but I also think it's inherent because you've known that kid since you were in school. Just the kid who was an asshole who just it was always like bothering you. Just bother. So Matt, but that wasn't you, Matt. I know it wasn't you, Matt. I know you were a good kid in school. You probably stole my lunch money if I went to school with you. It's okay. I forgive you. But
I'm gonna buy you lunch.
Okay, well, there you go. You can buy me lunch now. You can come over the bridge and buy me lunch. I'm always up for something free. That's me. If it's free, it's for me. What do you love about networking? And then tell something that like Christine went into about the pushiness. Tell me that.
Yeah. I like to go in networking. I think it's fun. I get a little anxious sometimes. Even like if I have to speak 20 seconds before I speak, I feel really anxious. But once you get in there, you're great. I think having an old fashioned is a good way to start a networking event. No, I enjoy it. I love talking to people. I think the worst thing that's happened to me, besides people being pushy or something like that, or being rude, I hate when people corner you in the corner and they give you their sales speech for 45 minutes. And meanwhile, everyone's walking around, you're seeing everyone's like waving to you and you're stuck there. I think people in these networking situations need to know that everyone's there to meet a lot of people. It's not fair to lock someone down and give them your sales speech. That's something you're supposed to do later. You call them, you make coffee with them, then they get to share their sales speech. Besides that, I had someone recently spill beer on my lap accidentally. That was probably the worst thing ever happening at a networking event for me. So, for me, I just enjoy it. I think it's fun. Like she said, people are awesome. It's cool to meet them so you can help them learn about their industry. And like the go-giver thing that you spoke of earlier, I think it's just nice to help people. You might meet someone in a completely different industry. They're never going to be able to give you work or help you or refer you, but you can help them. So you do it. And it's kind of a pay it forward thing. I found my business, when my business starts to slow down, I don't know what happens. The phone just rings, emails come in, people introduce other people to you, and your business keeps moving forward. So I think networking is essential, and I really enjoy it.
Old fashioned. Do you get like the orange and the cherry muddled?
Come on.
I just like them dropped in. I don't want it muddled. I don't want I want the simple syrup muddled, and I just want them to throw the orange and the cherry. And I'm not into that muddle crap. It's too messy.
I don't know if you noticed about me, but I am a little high maintenance, so I go for the muddle.
Okay, you see, okay, I'll know that next time I see if it was Seinfeld, they'd be like, he's a muddler. Your mother. How about you, Ashleigh?
I think that what I love about networking is just the experience of meeting new people and getting to know how like different businesses work together, because that really is such a piece of the networking that even if it's not necessarily my area or my industry, and I'm meeting a lot of people that are doing a lot of different things, being able to kind of see how different industries and verticals apply and work together in ways that maybe you wouldn't think is very interesting to me. So when I get into a room of a lot of people, that's always very, I think it's a cool thing. Maybe it's a little nerdy of me, but I think it's a really cool thing that even if I can't necessarily help somebody, well, how can I connect them with somebody or the right person, right? Like that's my next question. If I think I can't help somebody, I'm going to ask them, or if I think that the resource would be minimal, I'm going to say, who is your best contacts? Who do you want to meet? Because I'm a walking Rolodex. A lot of us are. We've been doing this for a really, really long time. We know a lot of people. So bringing value to people is just one of the things that I find the most fascinating piece, whether you can be a part of that or if it's somebody else. As far as weird things that happen, I don't know that I've had anything weird necessarily happen while I was networking. On the topic of sales and being pushy, I did have a salesperson come to my door and like it took forever for me to get them off the step. And I'm a salesperson that doesn't like to be sold. So like I see people walking up sometimes, I'm like, oh, put the blinds down. Like I'm one of those people because it's the relationship build. Now, granted, let me give a little shout out to some of these guys that are pounding pavement out there, especially when they're doing it in rain and bad weather. Go you. I'm probably more inclined to buy from you when you're out there in rain and snow and stuff like that because you're going for it. So I will say that.
All right. Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say it's probably like being a Jehovah's Witness,
Exactly. But yeah. So It's the part I like to talk. I haven't done this lately. I haven't bitched about LinkedIn, and I love LinkedIn, and I contact people through LinkedIn. You know, like if I don't have your email, I'll sit there and I'll send you a message on LinkedIn. Hey, you want to do my show? Or I don't sit there and try. Hey, can you do business? I said, you want to do my show, and it goes from there. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I promote my shows, and I promote this, and because you have to get out there, you have to build your brand. But I think sometimes LinkedIn has become like this a palette for arrogance. Okay, I'll put it that way. Like people will sit there and they always will tell this story, and they'll start this story. And it starts with a humble brag, okay? And they sit there because they want the attention because they're narcissists. And they'll get to this thing. And then they tell you why you should deal with them. You know, why I can make your life better. You know, first of all, how I can help you. Well, for me, I'm like, no. You know, I've lived in San Diego. I lived in Vegas. I've lived in, LA. I've done a lot of stuff in my life. Hell, I beat up Andy Dick and I drank mind eraser shots with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Okay, people don't do that because you can't tell me anything. But I think there's this sense sometimes of an arrogance and that people think they're better than you and they talk at you. And like we talked about Devin. Devin doesn't talk at you. Because Harvest isn't like sometimes you go to networking groups, they're cliques. Well, Harvest, you guys are all very close. But I was in a docking tank at Deal's house this 2 summers ago, and I met all these kids, and everyone was very accepting. Even though I wasn't in Harvest, they're all accepting. And there wasn't. Devin doesn't have that arrogance. Devin likes to push his point down, and that's what he does. But he's not arrogant about it. And I think we get a lot of people. I mean, they're just. One person I was like, oh, I've done 125 podcasts. Big shit. I just interviewed, Mick Mars from Motley Crue. Were you on my podcast? No. So what is it that bothers you about LinkedIn? And be honest, don't cookie cut it or sugarcoat it because people sometimes are afraid to speak. But sometimes you just go in there and go, holy crap, I would just like to hear, like when Christine, when you post the pictures of your event, I'm like, this is cool. That's what I want to see. I want to see pictures of event. Or Christine says, if you need fleet services, we can do this. Or if, Ashleigh, you promote your service. So what is something, and we'll start with you, Matt, what is something just bothers you about LinkedIn? I went on a little bit of a tangent because I haven't talked about it lately. But
No,
what's
it's
something
true.
that bothers you?
Well, like in contracting, we all know each other. And there's certain contractors out there that sell themselves. Like they could be, painting a 12-inch wall, and they would make it seem like they were installing, a brand new sports stadium somewhere. And they're always, like you're saying, they're like, self-promotion. It's so cocky and it's arrogant. And I don't know, it doesn't irritate me. I mean, I just kind of swipe fast and quickly. But I think that's probably the thing I find personally is, like you said, a little bit of bullshit. I could smell it a mile away, and it turns me off. So there's a lot of bullshit on LinkedIn, I think, like you're saying, and yeah.
Okay, how about you, Ashleigh?
That's what it is. People just try to overly self-promote.
How about you, Ashleigh?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of LinkedIn. I think it used to be a work Facebook is what I think turned into at this point, because it used to be a great tool to kind of meet and connect with people. But what really irritates me, I think, is when I have somebody who either friends me on there, and I say friend because at this point it's kind of really generic. You're seeing people that request you. You're seeing people that you've never met request you. You're seeing people in other states that request you. So I think it's when they request to connect, and then immediately the message comes with the sales pitch. First thing that comes in on the message thing, kind of like the overzealous, like, why don't we have a conversation first? But it's even better because they're in like Arizona and it's like a product thing, and they want to immediately give me the sales pitch. And I'm like, hi, how you doing? I'm Ashleigh. Like, that's probably the most annoying piece to me there. So
how about you, Christine?
So everything that you are saying, Steve, about, people being arrogant and coming at you, and like Ashleigh said, and Matt, there's everything wrong with that, because you don't know if you can help someone until you ask the right questions.
Right.
So if you're just going to go, on some big tangent about how great you are, like you said, nobody cares. Nobody cares that you're great. All people care about is how are you going to bring value to them, right? So all the things. So yes, you deal with a ton of riffraff on LinkedIn, people being very aggressive in the DM, like, hey, let's take a meeting, like whatever. I mean, it's such an art, I think, communication on LinkedIn. Let me tell you why I love LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn because as an effective salesperson, you almost have to be like an otter that dives at the pearl, right? At different angles. So it's another angle to dive at. If I'm dropping off, I give cookies out at the holidays to my customers, right? And sometimes I dress up and make it fun. If I stop in and I'm trying to meet, a big, say, 200 vehicle fleet, and I've called the guy and I can't get in front of him, I'll stop in and drop off my, if he's not in, I'll drop off my gift to him. And then boom, I connect on LinkedIn. So now he sees my picture and he connects it to the gift I dropped off. So now it's just another avenue. Is it the sole avenue? No. Do people do well on LinkedIn? Yes. I have a girlfriend of mine who's gotten 80% of her business on DMs. But like you said, Ashleigh, she has a very effective way of reaching out. It's almost like you're actually in a conversation, like getting to know somebody, like immediately you're just asking a question, maybe a call to action and that kind of thing. You're not vomiting about what you do and how great you are.
All right. I love the fact that you said riffraff. I love that word. No one uses the word riffraff. We got to bring riffraff back. That's great. So let's get to the part of the show where I always talk about business books. And I'm not a business book reader. And some people aren't, some people are. If you don't read business books, just say, hey, Steve, I don't read business books. But if you do read business books, which I think Matt does, I think Matt has talked about this. If you look at business books, give one book that has made an impact on you. That, and it could be in the past, it could be now, but one book that you sit there, wow, this made an impact. So Matt, are you looking for a book?
I'm looking. I got a couple over. I'm trying to think which one I want to promote.
Give me a book that's made an impact on you. And it can be an impact 10 years ago, an impact last week, but what's one book?
I mean, everyone always says The Go-Giver. It's the easiest book to follow. I think for most people, it's a book that it's just an old idea that, just pay it forward. And I think people just sort of need to read it and let it sink in because we're all so used to being selfish. I think everyone is born in this world selfish. We're all that way. We want what we want. And I think once we learn to help other people get what they want first, we'll find that they will go out of their way to help us as well. And I think that's really the moral of the story with that book. But anyone that hasn't read that book should definitely read that book because it will help them a lot, not just in sales, but in their own personal life.
How about you, Ashleigh? Are you a business book reader?
I'm not a huge avid reader because it's hard for me to sit down for extended periods of time to actually read, I feel like, unless I'm on vacation or something like that. But I had in the past, I will say, read a lot of the customer service books that are surrounding Disney. And the reason why I say that is because Disney, don't come for me, I'm not saying now, I have no idea what they're like now, but before they had a huge emphasis on customer service and there was nobody like the Disney customer service. They would put them through a crazy amount of training in order to have that Disney experience. All right, so how do you apply that? Well, there's a lot of books written out there of how Disney's outlook and how Disney's customer service training applies to other verticals and other industries. Most people wouldn't think, oh, Ashleigh, you're dealing with budgeting and forecasting and projections and tax strategy and all that. How are you applying Disney to that? Well, the experience, right, starts from the second you pick up the phone to call somebody to the second you leave. First impressions are huge. When I was working sales and marketing, I learned a bad first impression. You need about 7 times seeing that person to correct that bad first impression. Think about that. How many times, how often are you going to get in front of somebody? So there's so much that these books can teach you about general customer service and just being able to connect with people that applies in any industry.
Okay. How about you, Christine?
About 20 years ago, my father gave me the greatest book that I have ever read and probably will ever read. And that is Og Mandino, The Greatest Salesman in the World. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that book, but the basic gist of it is, when you're about to quit for the day, make one more call, keep pushing, live each day like it's your last, and to hug your children like it's your last day, work for your employer like it is your absolute last opportunity to show them how great you are. And if you have not read that book, it's small. It's not like a long one, but it is absolutely, every chapter is phenomenal. Such a great book.
Okay, cool. So here's the final question, people. It comes at a time that this great time has to end. And I always close with this. If someone comes up to you, and it's funny because all you have have kids, so this is something that may be very pertinent to you. But it can be someone comes up to you and they can be getting out of high school, they can be getting out of college, they can be getting out of trade school, they can be starting a new career. Okay, they come up to you and they want to know, how do I navigate this? Like getting into the work world. You know, what do I need to know? Put yourself in the role as a mentor. What do you tell them? Ashleigh, what do you tell someone who comes up to you? And it can be any age. It says, you know what, I want to start working. I want to get out there. I want to make a difference. What do you tell them? What advice do you give them?
Never stop learning. Never. Even when you think you've got something down, there's always something to learn about it or something to take from somebody, right? Whether that's a teacher or a supervisor or a family member or a friend. You're never going to stop learning. You're never going to be the expert in everything, right? So that's where when we're hiring within our teams, don't ever think that you have to be the smartest person in the room. Hire for your weaknesses, right? Build a team that matters, because everyone's constantly going to be learning and evolving, as you should too. So don't ever count out and think, oh, I know enough about that. No, spend some time on it, learn.
Okay. How about you, Christine?
Very similar answer. I think it is so important to find a coach, a mentor, somebody in your industry who's done it already, who's excelled, who's extremely successful, and ask for help. Like Matt had said, I mean, continue to lean on people that are your senior. You know, they've done it. They have wisdom. Ask for advice, ask for guidance, ask for that path, ask for direction. And you need help. You need people that know and that have done what you're trying to do.
How about you, Matt?
Anyone that has, like, anyone new in this world that's trying to plan their life, I would say, whatever your dreams are, write them down. Write them with ink on paper. That's number one. Once you wrote your dreams down and you get going, you need to have a plan. If you don't have a map, you're not going to find where you're going. The next thing is you're going to fail along the way, and failure is information. It's teaching you what not to do again. You won't make that mistake again if you pay attention. And last but not least, like Christine said, you have to ask for help. Be willing to ask people to help you along your way with information, with tools, maybe with money. But you'd be surprised how many good people there are that want to promote you.
All right. Well, this was great. Now, Ashleigh, how can people get in touch with you? If they need your services, how can they find you?
Well, they can certainly give us a call, or they can shoot me an email, and my email will be awilson@clmadvisors.net. I am very much a let's have a conversation, so people know what we do, because it may not be the right time for them, but anybody with a business is probably going to want to grow it at some point. So at least know what we do and when would be the appropriate time where we may be able to help you.
How about you, Christine? How can they get in touch with you?
Christine at ARSFleetService.com or LinkedIn is a very good way. And, you know, I'm somebody who believes that even if you don't have a fleet, right, or whatever, I'm willing to meet anyone, because it's really about who, like Ashleigh said, the people in your Rolodex. Like, who do you know? Who do I know that can help you, and how can we help each other? So, you know, more than willing to help anyone that needs it.
Okay. Matt.
So my email address is matt@positivewiring.com. Our phone number is 267-348-1947. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's about it. I'm happy to help anybody who needs anything.
Cool. People, go definitely check these people out. You can get in touch with me at the Coop Tank at yahoo.com. You know, if you want to advertise on the show, hit me up. We get business leaders in there everywhere. They know everyone. And the people who watch the show are business leaders. So wouldn't you want your brand to go out to them? So you can contact me about advertising on here. It's the Coop Tank at yahoo.com. Also, I have to look up the date. Starting May 4th, Speakeasy Comedy at Soundplex Studios over there in Merchantville. I'll be hosting every 2 weeks. It's a Steve Cooper comedy show. I'll bring some top headliners from the area. Go check that out. You can also email me at the Coop Tank. Check out my podcast, Cooper Talk. Go to coopertalk.net. There's 1,002 episodes from Emmy winners, Oscar winners, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. It's great, and you'll be surprised how much these performers have in common with business people. And I want to thank Joe Ganjami, the best producer around. If you need his work and his expertise, I guess we'll call it, look up him, Joe, at SuiteRecording, SUITE recording.com. I'm Steve Cooper. Thank you, and I will talk to you all next week.